Another front between China and the United States in trade. The two sides just wrapped up their latest talks here in Washington, and they are pledging a commitment for more cooperation. For analysis on the meetings, I spoke with Douglas Paal, the Vice President for Studies for the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace.
You would think that not much was happening because we're going to be between new people coming in and out of office in Washington. We don't even have a Secretary of Commerce yet. We have an acting. And the Chinese leader in the negotiations, Mr. Wang Qishan, is moving on to a new job very soon. So this could have been a nothing meeting, but in fact they got some substantive work done. And from what I can tell from the early reports is that more got done by the Chinese to meet our needs than we've done to meet China's needs.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that Wang wanted to get this thing kneaded up before he goes. And secondly, that the things we're asking the Chinese to do are things they know they have to do structurally at home anyway. So they're doing it for their own sake, and we're getting the benefit.
I think that a lot of critics are going to say, we've heard that kind of language coming out of China before, that we want to crack down on piracy. We want to crack down on allegations of taking intellectual property. Right. Why will this be different?
Well, you know, this is not going to happen overnight. It's a process. We've seen every country in Asia that rapidly modernized, in places like Singapore, which greatly respects IPR today, in the 1980s was a terrible pirate.
From the Chinese perspective, they feel they've been hammered unfairly with duties, tariffs, and they would like to see more technology transferred. Is that going to happen?
On the tariffs, they've responded to our, especially the heightened political use of various WTO mechanisms, right, with mechanisms of their own. They find problems with us that they can take to the WTO, and we duke it out in their dispute mechanism. So I think that's something we're just going to have to live with. It's going to be a static level for quite some time.
What can we do to chip away at this massive trade deficit? Is there any way that the playing field is going to be equalized?
Well, the trade deficit is moving in our direction. Right. You know, it was almost 10% of GDP in '06, and today it's about 2%. That's a big reduction. There's going to be a natural deficit. We're not going to get rid of a deficit. We're more of a consuming country than we are a producing country, and that's going to stay there for quite some time. The question is, how can you manage to keep it down? And China's trying to do two things. One, you can't run a current account and a capital account surplus at the same time. You got to have one as in negative territory. And they're trying to send capital overseas. So the facilitating Chinese investment in the U.S. will be the key to getting some balance in our overall relationship.
China has a new leader for the next 10 years. The slate is going to be clean. President Obama isn't saddled with the burden of having to run for re-election. He can craft his legacy. Why is he not reaching out more and trying to spur the U.S. economy by trying to smooth those rough edges with China?
Well, this is not the moment. He's still got Secretary Clinton with him. Presumably he's going to name her successor pretty soon, and then we'll have a few months. It won't be until about March that he can be back into a position of reaching his stride. I and a lot of people like me have been urging the president to take advantage of the fact that he's the senior guy in this new relationship with the Chinese. And early on in the new year, say sometime in March, April, May, invite Xi Jinping to come and meet and have a four-eyes-only conversation where they really talk through the big issues. Big things we want to do, our bottom lines on some issues, things we won't do, and we're glad to tell the Chinese we will not do that, so, to ease any fears they may have, and get the same kind of response from the Chinese. That could be a legacy-making kind of event.
Does President Obama have this investment in foreign affairs right now? I mean, he's so concerned with what's going on here. Does he have the time? Can he make a difference in the next 4 years?
Well, the politicos in the White House believe that the president has had a fairly good run on foreign affairs, especially in Asia, because there's a bipartisan consensus behind his policy. It's not under attack, even though Romney made an effort at that in the presidential polls. And so they think continuity rather than change is where they ought to go.